we are live. Hello, very
Hi.
nice to see you all. I'm going to introduce myself first because I always forget that. I'm Diana. I'm a life coach, insight coach, health coach, things like that. And today I'm talking with Ciara, and I'm very happy that you're here with me. Ciara is also a coach, and we've decided to see where this conversation leads us. So we'll just talk about some things that could be of interest to you, or maybe not. You'll find out when you listen. So, how's your day been today? For you, it's quite early still, I think.
Yes, it is. It's morning. It has been a great morning so far. Been having some great time with my dogs, spent some time outside. It is
Nice.
not ridiculously hot. It's overcast, so it is nice and shaded. Even though the sunrise was really pretty behind the clouds, all the clouds, stayed cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty warm still down here in Texas, in the US, so it's early and warm. But it's been a great day.
Cool. Yeah, here it's cold in the UK. Despite it being the south of England where I live, it's pretty cold. We
Mm.
only have in Celsius 1-digit numbers now, and I don't know what that
Oh,
is in
wow.
Fahrenheit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They say it's gonna freeze soon, but it's
Mm.
pretty cold. Still really pretty day because we had sunshine on the leaves and everything. So all these yellow and red leaves, and then the sunshine on that's really pretty.
Mhm.
And for me, it's nearly 4 o'clock now, so my day is nearly ending.
Yeah.
Um, you said a few things earlier when we were talking before we started about body work and life being a performance and things like that. And that's all really interesting. I think that the life being a performance will probably be tickling people's minds the most, as that's not the most common view on life.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk a little bit about how you see that? What your thoughts are with that?
Absolutely.
Cool.
So, a little bit of background. I was a dancer, performer, choreographer when I was at uni, and then got out of university and life happened. I ended up becoming a caretaker for my parents, well, for my dad, through his cancer journey. And then tried to get back my own life back on track after that. After he passed in 2013. So I was on my own track of trying to figure out, okay, let's get back in
Mm,
what do I want to do with life?
yeah.
And decided about 2017 to go and get my master's degree, and that was in art. And trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do with this? What do I want to research? What do I want to learn about art or about myself? And I was at a school that allowed me to create my own program. And in talking to all of the professors there and like learning about the people that were there, I realized that the common thing is that we're all just trying to create this best life for ourselves. And in that came the realization of, okay, what if I looked at this life as a performance, being a dancer, being used to being on stage, knowing that, okay, when I go onto stage, I have this confidence, I have this love, I have this passion that comes out. What would it look like if I treated life that way every day? Um, so then through my research and through my studies and kind of getting deeper into my art practice through my program, I just tried to see what would happen if I treated life as a performance. And then the realization came of, okay, well, it's not just me treating life as a performance. In actuality, life is a performance. We have the choice to go right or left. On a stage and when you're dancing, you can choose to change the choreography, you can choose to follow the choreography. In life, we can choose to follow what we think we should do by society or by our own standards, or we can veer totally a different direction and say, I'm going to take this direction with my life. And I think that's also what got me into coaching is, hey, how can we figure out what show we want to put on for ourselves? And it's not even for the external audience, it's for
Mm,
ourselves. And a
yes.
little bit about that is also like my home style of dance is belly dance, which is tribal belly dance, which is all about the
Nice.
performance for the self. So the idea of performing not for an outside audience, but performing for the inside. performing for yourself, what feels good, then that really allowed me to connect the whole life as a performance together.
That is a really cool way of looking at it. I really like it. Yeah. Because whatever you do, when you do it for yourself, you will, most of the time, have others watching, whether you like it or not. People are
Mm-hmm.
always going to be around you, whether it's your family, whether it's strangers. When you walk through a park, someone will see you. It's rarely that empty that nobody will see you. And most people, when they would be alone, they would, you know, what I've seen that happen. I've done it myself. Just dance a bit more. Step goes easier when I know nobody's watching. And it's better than it used to be, but there were times where when I knew other people would be there, I would definitely behave properly, and I would just do things as was expected. And then when I knew nobody was there, I would do something different.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, cutting yourself quite short.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve you in any way, basically. So you're looking at it from that perspective makes it how in my head that then does, so how can I give the best performance at every time,
Yeah.
which would mean dancing through the park despite people being there instead of just mousing through.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a
Yeah.
very different way of living. So it makes for much more excitement.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it also allows, so like the idea of performances, like you do a performance again and again and again. You know, you go to a
Mm,
show, they're doing the same thing over and over, day after day. And each show, even though it's the same, it's going to be different. The energy from the crowd, the energy from the dancers, whoever, maybe there's an understudy that comes in. And in that single performance, everybody's really just giving their best job that they can do that day. And I think that's what let me realize, okay, well, I don't have to be better than I was 10 years ago. I don't have to be my best, to some other standards. It's just what can I do today that is the best version of me? And to be able to release that preconceived idea of I need to be the best, I need to be better, I need
mm-hmm.
like in an allowance of, okay, today's performance, whatever it may be, whatever it happens, I'm just going to be the best me that I can be at this moment. And so it takes out I think the focus of, well, what if I can't do this today? Or what if I'm in pain,
Mm.
if I have an injury, or, all these other things that we put ourselves down for. And it kind of helps to subdue that voice, that inner voice, that inner
Mm.
critic.
Yeah, because we all have that inner critic.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
usually not the most gentle one.
Yeah.
One of the things that I realized some years ago was that my inner critic is worse than what anybody else would ever tell me, which
Oh, yeah.
made me think of, I will have to do something about that, because when I can be forgiving towards others, I should be just as forgiving to myself. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been working. So one of the things that I learned many years ago and um, I could not internalize that at that point. And later on, when it came back to me, I thought, actually, that's quite right. That just doing things good is good enough. I don't have to be perfect about things, because perfectionism is quite paralyzing. But when I do it right, just right, nothing, I just do it,
Mm-hmm.
and I can read it and it looks decent. That's okay. It doesn't have to be the best performance of my life. There's And then there's the daily practice. That was an interesting thing as well, because any performance. So I've seen some things where it was very different one day than it was the other, yet it was both really good. It was
Mm-hmm.
both really interesting. So my kids did some stage things in drama classes, and then they were practicing and practicing, and that was quite the mess with lots of giggles and everything, which was really good. And then we would think of, I don't know how they'll ever pull this off, because it's just been a giggling mess the whole whatever time it was of practicing. But then when they did it for public, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
It may not have been exactly the way it was written out, but it was there and it was good and it was fun. And it was the same with when they would make short videos, because they've done some filming and things like that in their classes. Same thing. It would be lots and lots of giggles until they would actually film it, and then most of the time, first time was quite good.
Wow, nice.
And then it was this thing of, yeah, let's not film anymore. We're good now. It's good enough. But they
Oh,
could accept that, yeah, it's good enough. It's fine.
yeah.
This gives the message in a nice way. We don't have to make a lot of perfectionism about it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been really interesting to see how in the group that they participate in, that was okay.
Yeah.
And then there were others that were more perfectionist, and that would sometimes clash a bit because
Mhm.
then they didn't feel the performance was good enough. Because I've been seeing in different groups how some people want to give that amazing performance every day, all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that don't take care of themselves, are
Yeah.
constantly stressed out, are constantly struggling. So one of my kids has a friend who will not go for any less than straight A's, but with that is always struggling
Mm-hmm.
because it's super time consuming. And then when it's an A minus, the upset is crazy. That can, just as if the whole world has just collapsed, which is quite sad. And my kids have this thing, B will do. And I think, yeah, it's okay, B will do.
Yeah.
To be fair, nobody's ever asked me for my grades. They've only just asked whether I passed. So,
Yeah.
and I actually didn't even go for the B's. Passed, that was enough.
Yeah.
So was back then, secondary school. Pass was enough. After that, I changed a bit in that because I had my straight A's type of time as well. I think we all
Mm-hmm.
go through these phases, but
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Yeah. Exploring that perfectionist, exploring the hard studying, and yeah.
But when it's a topic that I really like, it's also different because I just enjoy what I'm doing. And
Mm-hmm.
then that means that I tend to just end up with the A's instead of lower because it's just fascinating to do. But when it's something that I'm not all that interested in, then a pass will do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been looking like lately, I've been doing a lot of tasks
Mm-hmm.
that are not the funnest, paying bills,
Mm. Yeah, I
washing
don't
the
like that.
dogs, things like that. It's like things I don't really want to do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to figure out how to look at those tasks differently. So I've been sitting in the word upside down
Mm-hmm.
liminality for a little bit the last few days, just to kind of be like, okay, what if I looked at this a different way? How could I make
Mm-hmm.
it fun?
Yeah.
Like washing the dogs. It's like, okay, well, if I take them outside, it's still warm out here. So if we get wet together, it's okay.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I've had one of those realizations at some point that even when I'm doing the dishes, there is a purpose to it
Mm,
because it serves the rest, because I live with a crowd. And that makes it from a different perspective that I can see more of yeah, the use and purpose in it instead of, ugh, I hate dishes.
mm.
I normally have a machine doing that for me. And then kids filling and emptying.
Yeah.
So I tend to avoid it completely. But sometimes when the machine, or I need something, yeah, the machine can only handle so much at a time. So sometimes
Yes.
there's something that's still standing there. But then, when I want to cook some nice food, I will
Mm,
need that pan. And yeah, about a couple of years ago, I would get really frustrated and irritated, and now I can have peace with that much more
mm.
than I used to. So that's an interesting thing as well, isn't how can you look at it from a different angle?
Yeah.
And I do like looking at things from a different angle. I like playing the devil's advocate at times.
Hmm. Yeah.
Some people
Sometimes
struggle with
it's,
that.
yeah. Yeah. I was about to say it's hard sometimes, especially when you're doing it to yourself.
That's the hardest, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely had that moment. Now living with my fiance, it's like, okay, we're washing dishes, we're doing the house chores that I've always done by
Hmm.
myself, and it's like, why do I feel angry when I'm doing dishes? Why am I upset when I'm cleaning? And it's just like, oh, there's something there that I need to look at, and it's just, okay, how can we look at this a different way? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? And it was a big realization of now sharing a space with somebody when, I mean, I have siblings, but I grew up almost as an only child because they're so much older than I am.
Mm.
So I never experienced having to live with somebody and share that responsibility. So now it's like, oh, I felt like I was only doing the dishes by myself, or I felt like I was cleaning when there was somebody else living here, and having to look at it a different way. what are we looking at? How are we sharing the responsibilities of living together? And,
Mm,
what is he doing versus what am I doing?
yeah.
So it was really interesting asking those questions to myself of, okay, let's look at this a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had conversations with people and with myself about those kind of things. And it always is a bit of a give and take because nobody will every day perform to their best.
Mhm.
So when you have agreements on you do this and I do that, and one of them is not performing, that can get tricky.
Mhm.
Frequently, there's a reason. So when you're just curious about what happened, you get to the bottom of it, and then usually it's not really a problem. It's the thoughts of, oh, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're out to get me, which
Yeah.
is rarely the case because
Hmm.
that's not the way people roll in general. I've had a, I've read an article about that a while ago. How the craziest of things that happen in the world, people tend to do with the best of intentions, but that's
Hmm.
based on their thoughts. They may not be good thoughts, but their thought process leads them there, and they don't mean bad.
Hmm.
I've even read that about a serial killer where I thought, goodness, actually, he
Wow.
was not really trying to cause trouble.
Mm.
And this was someone who, I don't know name or anything anymore because it's a while ago I read it, but it was a serial killer that would kill prostitutes.
Mm.
But that was from the thought of that the world would be a better place without them.
Wow.
He didn't think about their families or anything.
Yeah.
He just figured that the world would be a better place without prostitutes. Now, that's definitely also debatable, but he had good intentions while
Hmm.
killing, I don't know how many women.
Yeah.
Because, it's definitely not good what he did, but his thought process was not
Hmm.
going through I'm going to murder people type of thing. I'm
Yeah.
going to, I've read, Alice Miller has written a book about different people and how they ended up doing what they were doing, and that was really interesting as well. And I don't know the title anymore, but she wrote some really interesting stuff about the
Mm.
psychology behind what people would do.
Mm.
She was a psychoanalyst. She's not with us anymore, but yeah, she was very interesting to read her
That
books.
sounds so interesting. Yeah.
Oh, she wrote about the childhood of Adolf Hitler as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How he got to where he became, where he ended up
Hmm.
being, what created those thoughts and those wishes in him. Fascinating to read.
Yeah.
what
Wow.
what certain of actions that people do to children, what kind of effects they have in the long term,
Hmm.
is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a whole lot of performance in life again, parenting.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's quite the journey.
I think it's definitely I've seen a lot of women who are parents trying to be that perfection. The perfectionist is coming out, and it's just and earlier this year I saw one of our fellow coaches tell this new mom, say it's okay to not be perfect and it's okay to do just the best that you can today. And that hit me. I don't have any
Mm-hmm.
kids yet, but that hit me so hard, and I was like, oh, that's right. It's okay to have the dishes be dirty. It's okay to not do all the
Mm-hmm.
laundry that day, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to take a nap when the baby's like, yeah.
It's you should take a nap when the
Yeah.
baby's sleeping because you can only do that with the first.
Yeah.
After that, that luxury's gone. And to be
Yeah.
honest, at some point I adopted the strategy of, okay, they're happy, they've been fed, we're good.
Yeah.
And everything like that was all right, we're good. I didn't have to because there were days where it just wasn't working.
Mhm.
And as long as they were fed and reasonably clean and reasonably happy, it was all good.
Yeah.
Because when you look at how we evolved in tribal communities, it was mostly about food and spending time together.
Yeah.
I read the book, The Continuum Concept, that's about the Aquana and how they live. Well, they weren't really all that much into cleaning because they lived in huts in the Amazon.
Mm.
So there was a lot of dust there. So cleaning was not that much of a thing. But these people were just living, doing their thing. And it wasn't really about a lot of rules and things like that. was about chilling out more than anything else. I could do that. And
Yeah.
as I have 3 adult children now, I can safely say it was a good choice to not do a lot of parenting, but mostly be with them.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
yep, it was an experiment, I guess, because I wasn't raised that way and people weren't doing it around me much, but it worked out really well. Some of the friends that I used to have did not end up with the relationship with their kids that I have. So that was cool. And then some other friends did do it as well, because slowly but carefully you start meeting other people who are just as nuts. And then you see, yep, it does work.
Yeah.
Because most of these friendships that I created, their children are also adults now. And they all still have a pretty good relationship with their kids. So.
Yeah. Nice.
Which is another performance again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to hear that, because I think for me, I always had great relationships with my parents, and I was so close to my mom before she passed. And I always wonder, like, how did we do that? How did that relationship form? Because I see other people my age, they don't have the relationships with their parents. My mom and I could talk about anything, and we were always open with each other. We always, like, no matter what the topic was. And with my other friends, they're like, well, I don't talk to my parents about that. I wouldn't talk to my mom about that. And it's like, well, who do you talk to about that then? Like, where do you go, if you don't have that relationship? And that always makes me wonder, like, oh, I would love to have that relationship with my kids, to where whatever the conversation topic is, they can come and ask me or talk to me, and just to explore together.
That's where I've ended up, because my kids still come to me, and the oldest is 28. So whenever there's something, she's just saying, Mom, and then I think, okay, let's see. But what I've always done is that the relationship with them came first. So I'd rather teach than punish, because I found that punishments weren't very educational. So I'd rather have a deep conversation with them about things than send them to their room, because what are you going to learn from being sent to your room? That you need to sneak around behind their backs better next time. And that's what I saw around me a lot. And that's just what I didn't want. I wanted to have that relationship where they would come with everything, because I didn't have that with my mom. So I wanted to create it. And I think I have, to a reasonable extent, in the meantime. Yep. It's not all perfect, but whatever will be. So but when there's something, they always talk. I've heard things that I thought I did not really want to notice, but let's go talk about it.
Yeah.
Kids do things and then regret things and then need to talk about it. And they've not been much worse than I was.
That's good. I always fear my kids are going to be way worse than I was.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because they have to be who they have to be. One of my kids has done things that I haven't done. And I don't think I ever will. So, but the rest of them, no, they're pretty. And it was just the odd time, it wasn't an ongoing thing where there was trouble or anything. It was, you have these things that happen sometimes out of your control. That's okay too.
Yep.
So,
allows them to grow, allows you to grow in the relationship as well. So.
Yes, because at times it's really difficult when you see that they're making mistakes to not try to stop them from it. But, you can have the conversation, but don't tell them to stay home, because they will either do it or not. And when they do it, they mess up. They probably learn way more from it than when they don't do it because you told them not to do it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I had with my 19-year-old a conversation recently about making mistakes and how people learn so much from that and so little from not making mistakes. And then we talked a bit about Elon Musk, because he spent a lot of money on mistakes. And of course the man's not perfect, nobody is, but that view of that mistakes are learning experiences, I don't even think he calls them mistakes. I think he calls it learning. I'm not really sure. I've seen an interview with him a while ago, And it was really interesting how we views that very different. Because when you see it as a mistake, as a fault, as something that you've done wrong,
Yeah.
you're much less likely to try something like that again
Hmm.
and learn and grow, as when you see it as a learning experience, as in, oof, that went wrong. Okay, what exactly went wrong? How can we do that better next time? It's a
Yeah.
very different perspective than just feeling bad about having made a mistake.
Hmm.
So, yeah, interesting stuff.
I was listening to a TED talk the other day, and this woman who was doing the conversation was talking about how, there's very few things that you can turn away from after making a mistake or after having a learning experience. And she was like, choose,
Hmm.
make a choice. And if it's the wrong one, then pivot or change your mind or, take the different job, do the different house or,
Yep.
and she was like, short of, having a kid, there's very few things that you cannot pivot away from and change your mind about. She was like, so take the
Hmm.
risk, learn.
Yep.
If it doesn't work out, then change.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are actually struggling with that.
Hmm.
I think that's what brings a lot of people to a coach,
Yeah.
because they feel they've made a choice and now they have to stick with it. No, you don't. There's so many ways of changing your mind. And, you know, we all, as we learn, we grow and we change.
Mhm.
I've known people who've changed their way they looked at nutrition completely from one side of the spectrum to the other, or, all sorts of other things, as in, I like these kind of people, this kind of music. No, they change their mind. And over time, to be fair, I like a lot of different types of music, but at different times, certain music is better for me than other music. So,
Yeah.
and that's with life as well.
Hmm.
Lived in 3 different countries, changed a lot in my life,
Yeah.
and it's been quite good, because every change, you figure out more things about yourself and about people around you. So it's
Hmm.
always kind of good. So yeah. And yeah, a kid, that's pretty much the only thing that you can't put them back.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're stuck with that. But even there, with a child, you can start in a certain way of parenting and then thinking, no, 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 I'm going to chill out more. Because
Yeah.
I started trying to be perfect about it and doing everything the right way and all sorts of stuff. And then realized, yeah, my kid's not really cooperating with that. Babies don't really think that way, it looks like. So I changed my mind and decided to parent differently. And that worked out way better.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I had all sorts of ideas before I became a parent.
Yeah.
I
I'm kind
knew.
of in that boat too. I'm like, but yeah, once it happens, I know it's like, okay, we can evolve with it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had to change my mind quite a bit when being a parent. Because I said so was one of my answers when they were little, and that just doesn't work at some point anymore. So then,
Yeah.
but why? Because I said so. Yeah, no, that's not good enough answer. Oh, because at some point they'll use your own words against you, and
Hmm.
then you have to start thinking about, oof, I need to have better conversations.
Yeah.
And then the conversations grow. That's all
Mhm.
good. Yeah. So, is there anything new that you're doing that you would like whoever's watching to know about?
Yeah. So I am currently working in art a little bit more and
Hmm.
looking at bringing art into my coaching practice. So I'm having my clients that are open to it and wanting to explore, having my clients do some art therapy practices, whether it's painting, drawing, sketching, dancing. So as a performer of life and as an artist, I try to bring in as much creativity as I can
Hmm.
every single day. So I've started using that with my clients and kind of seeing where that takes them. And it's had some amazing changes on people. And I've seen some amazing feedback from it. And even things that weren't topic of discussion,
Hmm.
a couple of weeks later, they'll come back and be like, this really helped me with this. And I've been continuing it, and it's been really an eye opener. And that's been amazing to see when we talk to somebody, it's not just the change or things aren't just happening when we speak to them. Like things continue happening the
Yes.
next week, the next month after we're talking to them. And with the art, it's also another tool that they can take home and use whenever they need that little bit of space, whenever they need that time to say, okay, I need to come back to myself or reground or
Yeah.
take some time to just be with me for a little bit. And it's a good reminder. And so that's one thing that I'm kind of working on now is what I'm calling expressive insight. So how can we use expression as a
Mm,
way to open up those insights that we have?
that is amazing. I don't think many coaches are doing that. That's
Thank
the good
you.
thing about what your background. Yeah, everybody's background comes out in their
Yes.
coaching, which is
Yeah.
really cool because that makes
Mhm.
every coach different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
really cool what you're doing. So, um, shall I add some things so that people can contact you?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
So on Instagram, that's the best way to find me. It is Expressive Insight on
Cool.
Instagram. And then on Facebook, I am Ciara Brianna, which we'll add to that as well on the video.
Cool.
But I'm able to be found mostly through Instagram. That's kind of where I do most of my work and connecting with people.
Cool. I will add that all to the video so that they can find you then.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for this conversation. I found it really
Thank
interesting.
you. My pleasure.
Learned.
It was so great.
It was fun. Yeah. I learned quite a few things from thinking through about what you said. This whole performance thing is cool. Really like it. So thank you. And
Thank you.
till some other time. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.